Alright, so, welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today we're playing some Risk of Rain, and just chat about stuff. So, I know that I've been streaming a lot of Wrath of the Righteous recently, I felt like, today feels more like a brain-off sort of day. So, yeah. Happy to have you here with me, and if you have any questions about Pathfinder stuff, then ask away. Or otherwise, I'm just gonna ramble about literally whatever comes to my mind, because that's how my brain works. But anyway, let's see. So there's the teleporter. It has been too long since I played this game. It's been like a month. But let's see. I maybe should have thought of something in particular to talk about. But, well, I didn't do that, so instead you're gonna get unconcentrated rambles. Which, to be fair, is basically the thumbnail of the stream, so, like, I guess I'm not gonna be false advertising. But I guess, yeah, like, I'm not what you would generally call, like, a gaming channel, because I make, like, educational, technically, yeah, let's take the Sears, but I'd make, like, theoretically educational videos, right? But it's like, oh, but there's so many different games that I would like to do, but it's like, that's not necessarily what the channel's for. So streaming's fun for that, for fulfilling those kind of things that I like to do, but otherwise can't do. Anyway, this is what happens whenever I don't have an idea of something in particular to talk about. But anyway, for those of you who do not know what this game is, Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike. It is, well, okay, so it is a game where you go and you are crash landed. Actually, no, not crash landed. That's Risk of Rain 1. But you are sent down onto a planet to get a bunch of gear that was dropped off whenever a previous spaceship crashed onto the planet. You're just trying to get all of the stuff back. The wildlife doesn't like you, so you fight back, but as you get more and more pieces of loot, each one has a separate effect that stacks infinitely. So, for example, the soldier's syringe increases attack speed by 15%. Each soldier's syringe increases attack speed by 50%, or 15%, and it stacks for as many as you get. So you just go through multiple stages, getting more and more and more loot. Until eventually, you die, because that's how these games go. And it's nice to see you, Al. Nice to have you here. How you doing this fine, potentially afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Potentially morning, depending on what time zone you're in. Have you played Pathfinder on Foundry as a player? Yeah, I, like, basically exclusively play on Foundry. I've never GM'd on Foundry, so I can't really give much advice when it comes to that. But in terms of being a player, oh yeah. It is very smooth once you get used to the interface. And there's so much automation, it's wonderful. But it does take a little bit of getting used to. Of just, like, figuring out where things are. A lot of that also depends on what modules the Foundry, like, what modules are installed onto that instance of Foundry. Because that's something that I'll find myself doing, is like, oh, I'm really used to having, there's a really nice one that I like called Token Action HUD, which basically gives, whenever you have a token selected on a scene, it gives you a bunch of the actions associated with that token at the top of the screen. So like you select your token and then you get all of your strikes and damages and skills and saves and all of that stuff. So it's all listed there, and then if I play in a game that doesn't have it, I'm like, wait, what do I do again? I have to use a character. God forbid. Generally, players don't really have to do a heck of a lot. In terms of getting Foundry set up on someone's machine, only the GM has to actually do things. The GMs have to run the Foundry client, but for everyone else, they can run it on their own browser. Although I would generally recommend using Chrome. Like, I'm not joking. Literally, the only two things that I use Chrome for are seeing messages during streams and for running Foundry. There are some alternative ways of running games, but they're not necessary or anything. Like, there are streaming services, like I know Forge is a streaming service that will, or it's not a streaming service, it is a hosting service. So it will host your Foundry world, so it's always up. But that one, it isn't like necessary or anything at all. One game I'm in uses it, and it's nice to always be able to go and check, like, wait, how much money do I have again, so I can maybe think about what stuff to get. But it isn't like remotely like, it's a quality of life upgrade, but it also costs money to ask them to host it for you. So that's up to you. Oh, no. There's not much setup. If anything, what I would expect is just that the first session experience in regards to people knowing what buttons do what is going, that's not gonna be like an every session thing, so long as I'm assuming your players have any amount of technical literacy. They'll learn the UI. People are very good learning machines. The one thing I will say is make sure to have a session 0, just for people to get their characters in, because that can take a long time if you're not familiar with that interface. So, yeah. And regards to an idea for a topic, favorite characters that I've built by power, okay, so basically, favorite characters of any variety. Let's see. My favorite character to play, as in like the nitty-gritty of tactical combat with this character was really fun, was a gymnast swashbuckler. They were also my first character and the only character I played from levels 1 to 20. But gymnast swashbuckler is really fun, especially past level 10. Because with Daring Do, you can start to be able to roll twice and take the better on every check to grapple, trip, or shove. And then if you also have a good strength and a really good athletics, then like, oh boy. You just get to choose when people are grappled, and it's hilarious. That's just fun because it was a very support build. Even though it had the potential for good damage, it wasn't the main goal, which was fun because it was a very different way of playing a martial than anything that I've done before. So that was just Clean was a very, very fun character to play because it was just very fluid of trying to figure out, okay, would it be better to trip or grapple this person? Preferably both, of course. But how can I best get that off? And more importantly, how can I best encourage everyone else to do whatever the hell they want? So trying to predict what other people were going to be doing on their turns and then making it easier for them to do it. that's fun. Especially since I can absolutely ruin someone's day while doing it, so I'm not literally just playing for other people. I do my own stuff at the same time, but it helps out other people, which is fun. Yeah, and Session 0 is always important, but especially if people are going to be learning a new technical system. Just so more of the roadblocks aren't there for the main session. Oh, I forgot I did a Trial of the Mountain. This will be interesting. Oh, wait. Oh, I could have made better use of that. Oh, no. Okay. Pardon me while I try and think a little bit more during this very hectic game. But let's see. In terms of favorite character by flavor, I don't really have one because I generally just like the flavor of a lot of my characters. But I'll have to say of the, like, I guess maybe in terms of like elevator pitch. So like, if I had to explain my character in like 15 seconds to someone, my favorite is probably, I am about to die. I should maybe think a little bit more about what I'm doing. It has been too long since I've played this game. I'm dead. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But anyway, this is predominantly a Pathfinder stream, not a Risk of Rain stream. I just need something to do with my hands. But favorite character in terms of like an elevator pitch that I could just immediately describe to someone, just because I think it's a really fun idea, is, once again, lovely tea, is a thaumaturge that I'm playing currently. Although honestly, I can absolutely, all three of the 2E characters that I am playing currently, I fucking adore. But I'm just gonna talk about the thaumaturge. I've had so many runs of this game. Deaths no longer faze me at all. It's nature of the game. But is the thaumaturge that I'm currently playing is a halfling thaumaturge with the tome implement as their first implement and weapon for their second, who is an investigative reporter. Very loosely, an investigative reporter, who basically thinks that, like, oh, information should be freely spread amongst people, and people shouldn't try and hoard potentially life-saving information, and people should be aware of, like, basically very much a freedom of information and of the press sort of person and thaumaturge. But the core thing about them, the main thing that you'll learn very quickly about Torpor, is their name is very on the nose, as Torpor is permanently sleep deprived. And more than anything, rather than like, oh, studying the arcane and occult to learn the secrets of the universe, that's not the way I'm going with Torpor. Torpor's just incredibly sleep deprived and tries to come up with stuff that makes no sense at all, but it makes sense to him because he's really tired. So, like, oh yeah, no, put in some red food coloring onto my sword makes the sword angrier, and therefore more damaging to the person I'm fighting, because he's just very tired. And he's really fun to play, because really tired is a very easy emotion for me to conjure up on at any given time. So it's just really fun. That's just a fun character to play, because it's just, I get to yawn in people's faces and buy a cloak of feline rest so I can literally go to sleep whenever, and it's just fun. My favorite then just And then I'm also playing a Laughing Shadow Magus that punches people, and that's just fun because punching people with magic is entertaining. Not much necessarily that is super complicated there. Just punch stuff, brain go burr. But now let me actually read your question, Nicolas. Stands for people that want to make their full build from the start and the ones that just go with it as it happens in game. Tips for setting boss encounters. Okay, so I am someone that generally plans out a build from the start. I'm one of those people. I like coming up with interesting mechanical synergies, and I then kind of end up basing characters around those. So I am someone that does that. However, I have also made pretty significant changes to a character based on the events of the story. And I've played with people who also plan things out from level 1, and then I've also played with people that don't think about what they're going to take whenever they level up until they level up. And both kinds work really well, I think. The main thing is being flex. If you are coming up with a build from low level, like if you're coming up with a build from low level that involves like a character arc sort of thing, or that may end up having changes to the character, talk to your GM about it so they know it's coming, so they can incorporate it into the story. And also be willing to change it if the story takes a drastic turn that you were not expecting. Like that Punch Magus that I was just talking about, I've planned up till like level 8 or 10-ish, and everything else is like everything past that, no idea. What I end up taking is going to depend on which direction that character goes. But I just have like the core set of abilities that I know that I want this character to get. Rainworld Slugcat. Flexible Catfoot Ranger, Climbing Claws, Long Leap. I don't actually know the Rainworld Slugcat. The one thing that I will say regarding playing a Catfolk Ranger... Oh, well, if you're going flexible Catfolk, then it should be fine, actually. Actually, I'm forgetting if... I think Clawed Catfolk is a heritage and not a feat. Right? I'm pretty sure. But, I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not 100, but, the thing to keep in mind is that if you want to go for a Flurry Ranger, Twin Takedown doesn't actually work. Sorry, Twin Takedown, rules as written, does not work with unarmed strikes. Like if you have claws, let's say, so you have 2 claws, 1 in each hand, then like you might think, oh, well, I can use Twin Takedown with that. Well, technically, unarmed strikes are separate from weapons, and Twin Takedown requires weapons. I think that's dumb, and any game that I am in, that isn't like Pathfinder Society, where they really care about rules as written interpretations, but any like home game I was in, I would absolutely petition for that to be allowed. Because, yeah, if you've ever played with a cat before, you know that they can rake you with their claws really, really well. And it makes sense that a Flurry Ranger would be able to use claws, But, although if... one thing that might... Again, I'm not familiar with the Rainworld Slugcat, but... if you're going for like an unarmed strike sort of build, unarmed strike being the general term of unarmed strike of claws or punching or biting or pecking or tails that Tui uses, Monk could work really well. It may not have all of the... It may not be able to get all of the same, like, maneuverability quite as fast, but just going for a entirely non-magical monk that just claws the crap out of people would work really well. And I forget what the climb speed. Oh, they use spears and sometimes special items. Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, Cat. Every once in a while I think, oh, it's so unrealistic that in like Pathfinder 1e, a level 1 PC could very easily, sorry, a commoner could very easily die from a house cat, and then other times I pet a cat that doesn't want to be pet and I realize why. But so spears and special items. Then I am not certain exactly. I'm not familiar with them. Maybe depending on the kind of special item, an alchemist dedication. Not necessarily alchemist as a main class, but just like alchemist dedication gives you access to a bunch of different, or a fair amount of alchemical items every day, and you can prepare what you want. So then, oh, you have a bomb for different situations, and mutagens, and elixirs, and all that. Maybe? I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm not 100% familiar with the kind of build you're trying to make, although that does actually make me remember that there is a specific character that I now really... No, that's a lie. There are multiple characters that I now want to make because of the treasure vault, but one that I really want to make now is a dwarf champion that wears fortress plate and... Or not... Sorry. Probably wears full plate and wears... and uses a fortress shield. For that sweet... What would that be? Level 2 trained heavy armor. So what's that? 23 AC with a shield raised? That seems right. Which is so stupid. Just give up literally everything in exchange for AC. Oh, thrown weapons. Absolutely, you can make thrown weapons good. The main thing to keep in mind is that you want a throwing rune, or not a throwing rune. You want, or there are a couple of ways of dealing with thrown weapons. The easiest one is to just get like a spear or basically your thrown weapon of choice, or really technically any weapon, but you really want this to be a thrown weapon, and then put a returning rune on it. So after you make a strike with it, it comes back to your hand. So you could make like range throw, it's in your hand now. Then so range strike, it's back in your hand, and then you can move somewhere, then throw it again. Because the main problem when it comes to thrown weapons is that you really, really, really need a magical weapon. Like, it is required unless you are using automatic bonus progression to have a magical weapon. So you need so basically up until very recently, the only real way to make a thrown weapon build viable was to just put a returning rune, and then you just throw it, it comes back to you. That doesn't always work for the way that I've wanted to play a thrown weapon character before, because I don't always want to always just use a single weapon if I'm a thrown person. Sometimes you just want to like throw 30 spears at someone over the course of a fight instead of throwing one spear 30 times. But in the treasure vault, there was a new item put out called the Thrower's Bandolier, which you can put in 20 thrown items into. I think they have to be like light bulk, so I don't know if there are any spears that are light bulk, but you can certainly flavor other weapons as being more spear-like. I'm not certain about that, about the bulk of things put in there, but anyway. For a thrower's bandolier, also there's an invisible chest there. Right? I'm not... Yeah, there is a cloak chest. Okay. But basically, you put the runes onto the on the thrower's bandolier instead of onto the weapons, and then whenever you draw a thrown weapon from the thrower's bandolier, it gains those runes. So then you just buy a thrower's bandolier, and then put in a bunch of thrown weapons into it. But then the thing that you'll have to keep in mind in regard when comparing to the other, like, especially viable version of the let's get this chest if I remember where it is. The thing you have to keep in mind is that upon throwing a weapon from a thrower's bandolier, you're gonna have to draw another one. So that introduces a action cost that the returning rune won't have. But Rangers and rogues actually are uniquely suited to be able to deal with that better. Because you can because they can grab the quick draw feat. So you can draw a weapon from your thrower's bandolier as part of the action of making the strike. Of course, that is exclusively for making a basic strike action. So it doesn't count for if you wanted to, say, I don't know, make a hunted shot, I think actually would work with a thrown weapon. So if you wanted to make a hunted shot, which is a ranger feat where you make 2 actions to make a ranged strike with a +2 circumstance bonus on the attack roll against your hunted prey. If you wanted to do that with a thrown weapon and a thrower's bandolier, ow, oh god. Yeah, let's just get rid of all of these. Okay, never mind. Start a new run. But that's what I get for frantically trying to think of a name of a unique action from the ranger class that involves a strike. But basically, you can't hunted shot quick draw because quick draw is a separate action, which is unfortunate, and I'm not a fan because I want to be able to switch around weapons easier. That'd be fun, but no. I'm personally a fan of house ruling it, so like quick draw, you can interact to draw a weapon and strike, or interact to draw a weapon and stride. I don't think that would be horribly broken, or maybe stride half your speed, something to make quick draw better. But anyway, let me actually read chat more. Let's see. Yeah, PNG tuber setup is fun. But then, yeah, thrower's bandolier is 2 bulk of weapons. Okay. If paladin, champion, rangers, fighter, druid. I wouldn't necessarily. I would kind of disagree that ranger is like a fighter druid. Because honestly, the nature themes of the ranger class are pretty light in 2e, unless you want to lean into them. Like if you're taking the word in spells, then I mean, yeah, you're a primal spellcaster. So, I don't know if I would necessarily call thaumaturge like a bard, because thaumaturges are 100%, they are martial characters. That is their thing. I guess the way, trying to sum up, like, the thaumaturge class in any way succinctly it feels like a futile task, because there are so many ways of building a thaumaturge and ways of using a thaumaturge to fight and help out your party. Like, if you're using a bell implement as your main implement, and that's the one you're really going into, then you have access to a lot of really good, then you are gonna be good at debuffing. You can discourage people from doing the stuff that they're good at, which is cool. But you're gonna play completely different from, like, a tome thaumaturge, who the main thing that they are providing to the party is information that then they can use elsewhere in a fight. So it's like, kind of the thing, if what I would imagine to be a core element of a, like, bard cleric kind of combination would be buffing, because both classes are really good at that. But I do think that bards are better at buffing. Clerics have a much more varied, basically they have access to a shit ton of spells. Thaumaturges are just weird. They are, as of the currently released classes, the weirdest ones and the hardest one to describe what they do. Also, I'm gonna turn down the music a little bit. I wasn't sure what to set it at because I had it muted before because I was listening to YouTube videos while playing the game. Yeah, like, I guess oh yes, give me that wungus. Actually consistent healing, let's go. But rangers are more like, yeah, rangers are Aragorn in 2e, which makes sense because he's literally ranger. But it's more of the, oh yeah, this is the rugged outdoorsman who can just go through the wilderness really, really well. Like, that's more of their flavor. And of course, mechanically, they are more just, I pick someone and they're going to die. Because they are, in my opinion, the single best single target damage dealer in the game. There are, of course, some exceptions, but I would say that rangers are the single target kings of the game. Like, rangers excel in boss fights. They just, oh, there's the stuttering. I'm surprised it took 30 minutes for stuttering to pop up. Normally it doesn't take that long. In case you can't tell. But so rangers have a, I would say, very different identity from past editions of Ranger. Yeah, calling the thaumaturge like the Batman and also simultaneously Witcher is pretty accurate. Plan things out ahead of time, in character, plan things out ahead of time, because, like, oh yeah, you as a character totally predicted that you were gonna need to bring along the very, very specific esoterica to get a bonus against this enemy. But it's a very, very fun class. It's just weird. So I don't know, like, I guess it's more of just that I don't know how I would even describe thaumaturges in the first place, Silver, of, like, how to sum them up. They're just weird. I love them. But they defy categorization. And regarding a drifter, the drifter of them not being in melee very much, by that, in what way? Like, are they not actively seeking out being in melee combat, or is it that if people aren't next to them, then they won't like run up next to people? Because if it's just like, I already have a ranged advantage and I have a gun and I'm gonna shoot you, then that's not bad. Like, drifters are more capable in melee than other gunslingers, but they still are predominantly, at their core, gunslingers. Like, they're probably still going to be fishing for that fatal crit and then like obliterating someone. So if they're actively avoiding it, okay. I would talk to them and ask if they want to continue playing a drifter, or if they think that there would be a different, like, I'm forgetting what they're called. Whatever the gunslinger subclass is called. Ways. They're ways. And then ask is, hey, do you think that maybe a pistolero would work better for the concept you have for the character? Now that you've had a chance to play them, and if you don't think you're going to want to be in melee, do you think something would work better? There's a reason why retraining is a core part of the rules, although it does take a very long time to retrain a thing like a way, but that's why you as the GM say, just give it a couple of days and you'll be good. Oh yeah. TUI made a change when it came to the Ranger class. They basically, Rangers did a rebrand with TUI. Then, in regarding the Drifter, I don't know. They're not going to be completely gimping themselves mechanically by not being in melee, because gunslingers can still just blow people up with a gun anyway. All gunslingers can do that. They just won't be getting everything. But if you've talked to them about it, then, like, at that point, the ball's kind of in their court. That, or have you talked to them if it's something like they want a higher level drifter ability that they just don't have access to yet? I can't remember off of the top of my head what those are, because it's been a while since I've thought about playing a gunslinger. But it could be something like that. But for the most part, it's like, as the GM, you're not like responsible for making sure that everyone plays a certain way. You can encourage it, but you don't, it's not like your job. You're not legally obligated to do it, or you're a bad GM or something. Yeah, this run is feeling a lot better. Maybe it's because I didn't use a mountain shrine. Yeah, I occasionally, when I'm on my phone, I'll fat finger enter instead of G. Let's see. Yeah, and there's always, like, I mean, a lot of the time when it comes to stuff, a degree of it could be that, like, oh, here's the thing. Did the frontliners in your group get completely obliterated after every fight, then get patched up? Because being a frontliner can be very scary if you're new to TUI, because you take a lot of damage. So it could just be that risk aversion, which honestly is pretty fair. It takes a little while to get used to having 70% of your health go down after a fight, and having to think this is normal. Favoring Scout's warning is an animal cry. Yeah, I mean, you can flavor Scout's warning in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, one hand up, everybody, be on guard or something, or just like a dove call. Depending on your environment. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, and none of them are really wrong. So an adaptive chest. And big chest. Anything. How much are these? Okay, 130. Oh, someone earlier asked about boss encounter design, and I completely forgot about it because I'm doing the mother of all multitasking here, and I'm not good at multitasking. But I can't give, like, honestly, that much advice when it comes to boss design because I have never GM'd 2E. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But the main thing is that, in general, I have found boss encounters, or not necessarily boss encounters, but just encounters that are meant to be climactic or memorable or challenging or all that good stuff. I've generally found that as a player, those feel better whenever you're not just fighting one person. If you're fighting... I'm gonna wait for the stutters, because I think I go robot-y during these. Yikes. A little bit of damage. Okay, but anyway, now we're smooth again. So, what I was going to be saying is that generally fights with multiple enemies is better, because if it's a single enemy and it's like 2 levels above you, you're less likely to be able to do cool stuff in the fight because you're less likely to succeed. So giving, like, here's an example from a recent game that I played in that legitimately had a really fun boss fight. But it is occasionally a problem, depending on party makeup, where, like, you'll have this cool fight, and then the one guy gets, like, surrounded by the 4 frontline characters, and then it's like, okay, well, now they're literally just surrounded, which doesn't necessarily feel cool, but if there were ads that really, like, demanded attention, or that made movement more difficult to stop people from getting next to the big bad, that makes a fight a bit more interesting. Because then it gives, like, the spellcaster at the back more time to toss out spells before they get surrounded and start regretting their life choices. I am not the creator of the Pathfinder Survivor mod. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming the Pathfinder Survivor mod is a mod for Risk of Rain that adds Pathfinder from Apex. And yes, environment is also very much key. Especially if it leads into one of the enemy's abilities, and even more especially if it leads into something that the players can do. Like, Whirling Throw is my favorite feat in the game. But it's only as good and as fun as it is if you have cliffs to throw people off of, or Tesla coils to throw people into, or pits to unknown areas, or my personal favorite, someone in your party who's casting prismatic wall that you could throw people into. So environmental factors are big. Don't underestimate the power of, like, oh yeah, the big evil wizard is gonna start on, like, a dais above everyone else, and you kind of have to go around to get to the staircase, to get up there, to get to them, or you could try and climb or jump up. because then that rewards people who have climbing and jumping and mobility options. Environment is very, very important. And also to keep in mind that some environments will kill your PCs. A shark is not a particularly deadly creature. Or rather, it is not more deadly than a creature of its level. But PCs underwater are dramatically weaker than PCs on land. So keep that in mind. If you build an encounter against an enemy that can fly at low levels, you can kill your party by accident because they just fly up and then you can hardly hit them. Oof. That is so much lag. But I could see a world where the Thaumaturge is like a bounded spellcaster, like the Summoner or the Magus. But I like the way that it's implemented so much that I'm fine with it. And besides, if you take all of the scroll casting feats, you basically are a half-caster. But if that's the way you want to do it, then yeah. Oh, a monk wrestler? Oh, that's one I want to do. Yeah, wrestler is a lot of fun. It is also just it's almost a little bit too good. As in one particular way, that being that the way that the wrestler is a little bit too good is that it is the only way in the game to grapple someone, or rather to stop someone from escaping who has cast freedom of movement on themselves. Because inescapable grasp is a level 14 feat from the wrestler that gives like if someone has freedom of movement and they try to escape, they have to make a DC 17 flat check, and if they fail, they have to try and escape normally rather than automatically escaping. Which is really good because a lot, and I mean a lot, of higher level like outsiders and just high level stat blocks have freedom of movement as a constant ability. So it's like, oh sweet, I can grapple things. But they can spend an action to automatically escape. Which, my problem is that the wrestler allows you a way to deal with that. But it is the only thing. If there was like another way to do it, then sure. Maybe give us like a legendary athletic skill feat for it. Maybe a legendary skill feat that does it better, or maybe does it in a slightly different way, but just a different way to go about it. Because that's something that I like about 2E, is that normally there are multiple ways of going about creating a character. But if it's like, okay, I wanna grapple people who are teleporting, there's one way. And it is wrestler. Admittedly, wrestler's great, and I love it. But it's like, but I wish that there was more. And I love Risk of Rain, Daniel. Even if my computer doesn't always love streaming it and playing it at the same time. Let's do this, and yeah, so there's just so much. You know, it is upsetting to me that Paizo's putting out content faster than I can play the characters that I want to play. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to play this, and then the Treasure Vault comes out, and I'm like, well, I guess I've got new priorities. Yeah, Odds of Downpour is definitely better. I mean, it does take a lot of inspiration from Risk of Rain, but they do wear that pretty heavily on their sleeve. Where I have been, that's where I've been. I don't play Risk of Rain all that much, but it was the first game I ever actually streamed on this channel. Because it is my brain off game that I don't think about whenever I play. So, which is perfect for streaming, because then I don't want to have to think about the game, because ideally I'm talking to you guys. I should really actually loot stuff before trying to kill this guy, and also that magma worm from before, but like, who actually tries to make intelligent decisions? Oh yeah, but just like, I have so many cool character concepts, and then the treasure vault comes out, and there is a clown poison. It's not literally a clown poison, but it is a slapstick poison. That its effects cause people to fall prone instead of dealing damage. And it also applies debuffs like clumsy and stupefied, because it just inhibits their motor functions so they trip. But I really want to play like a fighter with a, or no, you would have to actually go alchemist for a toxicologist alchemist that just makes people trip by just hitting them with clown poison, which is hilarious. And I think would make for really, oh no, I'm not taking a Benthic Bloom. This run's going too well. Wait a second. I should probably check how much the legendary is. It's been long enough since I played. I think it's probably going to be about 3.5k. Hey, actually got 2 in a row. Based on chosen weapon, Zagreus. Oh, that is another game I've actually streamed on this channel a couple of times. Zagreus. Well, as much as I want to say, well, you're required to play a Thaumaturge because they're a charisma-based spellcaster, or not, a charisma-based martial, and Zagreus is obviously a martial character and obviously has more charisma than he knows what to do with. That's my joke answer. The reality is probably, let me think about this. It would definitely change substantially based on weapon. As in, you could take a particular weapon and then build that, like, fighting style, or more into that fighting style. But if I had to bet, yeah, he does have some focus spells, but I think I would go monk. I'd go for a dex-based monk with probably a like 18 dex, 14 strength and charisma. Focusing more on, okay. So, because I actually think that monk could represent a lot of the fighting styles. They couldn't do all of them, but you could get multiple of the weapons with multiple types of monks. I am forgetting their name, but the fists, that's just a monk. Then if you want to like use Coronaut, that is that's just a monastic archer monk, which works really well actually for a super maneuverable guy who shoots you full of arrows. And there are monk swords, so you could use for sword Zagreus. And then you can take like Peacock Stance to move in and out of a lot of different people's ranges. And there are the only... Actually, no, there are probably more... Basically, you want to get a spear that has either the monk trait, or ideally, the ideal one would be, or alternatively, a spear that has an ancestry trait or something to use with ancestral weapons to get a spear. Like, I don't know why, but it's probably because of the way I play Hades that is influencing me saying monk, because I play Hades incredibly aggressive and constantly moving. Like, always trying to get close. That was a really bad time for me to take a drink of tea. Very bad. I would like to read what you guys are saying. This is also the largest room I've had in a while, which is fun. But almost like playing a story-based game when other people have not caught the previous streams is has people less likely to watch them, which I know, but I like playing Wrath of the Righteous. But now that the bosses are dealt with, let's see. Yeah, Rogue Cleric could work. You just have to try and find a domain that would be good. Actually, maybe Fire Ray? So the fire domain? Because that's kind of similar to the cast from Hades. It's just a ranged projectile. Ideally, you want something that could mark them so you could do more damage, but I can't think of one of the domain spell to do that off the top of my head. Also, your spell attack roll will be terrible, as you're a rogue. Let's see. New medic item, the treasure vaults. I did not. Is it an I'm assuming it's an alchemical item that allows you to do that. Or is it a magic item? Because that's very significant. I mean, you can already do it. Oh, I forgot to get the red. Oh, well. But I'm assuming it's a magic item. But that is interesting. You could still kind of do it already with the medic archetype, because once you were a master in medicine, you could ignore the battle medicine temporary vulnerability once an hour, but then that's battle medicine on one person an hour, not battle medicine on the entire party once an hour. And then, of course, investigators. Permanent magical item, what level is that? Because I might have to get that, because one of my characters literally just grabbed battle medicine in the medic archetype. And that would be very good. I'm assuming it's probably like level 8. What the heck? That is ridiculous. Oh, and thank you for the compliments. It feels easier to just ignore them because I'm not doing anything special, I'm just talking about Pathfinder. But, yeah. And in terms of, like, growth on the channel, I've gotten a shit ton in, like, the past month. It's ridiculous. And Pathfinder is a relatively small community that is getting larger, so I'll get larger with that. Now, wait. There is a grandparent. Okay. Good. I hate grandparents. As in... Oh. Oh. Ah. Gotta love lag. Whenever I'm basically playing a bullet hell. I mean, sure, if you want to share the name, then that'd be fun. A font on a non-cleric? I don't believe so. Font is kind of one of the cleric's big things, so I don't believe that there's a way to get it. I mean, there's always just preparing heal, but that's not really it. Yeah, no, every once in a while it is a visual novel, but it's fine. Also, I need to run. I don't have the DPS to kill this. Before... Oh no, yeah, I'm dead. Probably. Oh no! Yeah. Damn. I should have kept sprinting. Damn it. Yeah. I did not have enough healing or DPS for that. So that is the thing with grandparents. Why I said why I was worried about them before is because grandparents, their thing is at low health they just make a big AoE that constantly scales up a damage over time effect. So either you kill them before they can do it, or you suffer, or you run away and play things safe. But I don't do that in like any game I've ever played. I take stupid risks in every game, and especially whenever I'm not really thinking about what I am doing. Let's see. So, I just remembered about not Secrets of Magic, Rage of the Elements. I'm looking forward to Rage of the Elements so much. So much. Because earlier we were talking about how, yeah, the Thaumaturge is a pretty hard class to explain. The Kineticist is going to take that by a mile, as it is going to use basically different mechanics from the entirety of every other class in the game. Which is going to be fun. I mean that as a compliment. And just a lot of other cool shit. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of new items, but like, fair enough. Paizo just got all of their items out for the next 3 years. Gotta go soonish. One last question. Anything watch out for as a second? The main thing is that you really need to be careful with time after resting. Because it is generally true that, people say that encounters in 2E are balanced around the party being at full health, which isn't necessarily the complete truth. It works, it's pretty accurate, but it's more that the party needs a certain amount of health. So the front line probably needs to be at full health because they're gonna get smacked around all the time. That's kind of their job. So giving adequate time to rest up is good. But that is one of the main things, just because in Pathfinder 1e, you can go into a fight with like 75% of your health as a marshal, and it's like, okay, I should be fine. You're probably not gonna be in 2e. So that's just an assumption that changes. Something also just to tell players is, yeah, no, you getting the shit kicked out of you is, that's just how the game works. The other thing, a big thing, again, I'm not a GM, but I've been in a lot of encounters and I know what I like, is, really leaning into, what makes every stat block unique. Because Paizo has a lot of incredibly cool stat blocks in 2E, and leaning into what they have that makes them different and special can make fights feel really different. Like, say if you're fighting against a bunch of zombies and you're not like level 1. Having a zombie, is it zombie mauler? I'm forgetting. The level 6 zombie, it's large sized. It can throw unattended objects and other zombies. It can just make so many cool items. One-handed medicine kit. I mean, yeah, I mean, that is the Battle Medic's baton is, if it's just a free hand, that's very good because you can just play like a monk. And it's okay. I punch people with my other hand and I heal people with my other and I hold my baton with my other hand. Yeah, it's just resting time is important. Infinite resting time isn't always good, and oftentimes I feel like rewarding your players, or not necessarily rewarding, but like adding some kind of consequence to resting for an extended period of time is not always... It can be good in some situations, and other times it'll encourage your PCs to run into fights that they might die in, which is good in some moments, but that's more like a, does it fit? Okay. Maybe I should have been thinking. Yeah, but like, say, I generally try and save, or I think that saving time constraints for more cinematic and story moments is better than having it be a constant thing. Oh, I just remembered another thing that I just adore from the Treasure Vault, which is that there is now, officially you can use bagpipes as a staff if you're a bard. And they have like all of the sonic damaging spells and like demoralizing intimidation spells, and it's so good. As someone who really likes bagpipes, it is appropriate. It is a good representation of bagpipes. Because if you play bagpipes indoors, you are going to do damage to people. They are meant to be played from a mountaintop, 2 mountains away from who you're playing for. But just all like the new Coda staffs are cool. My only problem with them is that you can't play a magus. Like a twisting tree magus that uses like some bagpipes as their weapon. And then you take lunging spell strike and hit someone from 50 feet away with your bagpipes. Which would just be stupid, but it'd be funny. So I'd like it. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, there is one thing that I am actually a little disappointed about when it comes to the Treasure Vault. Not like big, and I'm still incredibly happy with the book, but I really wish that they did include a new alchemist research field for the new food items. Or maybe given the food items their own like trait or something, so they could include one of those in the future. I was just about to suggest consumable as the trait because they're food, and then I remembered that that wouldn't work. Just because I find the food items really interesting, and I would like to see what a alchemist dedicated to working on those would be able to do with them. Admittedly, most of them are long-term, like really long-term buffs, so it probably wouldn't work with the items as they are written. But actually, now that I think about it, there isn't a true taunt mechanic in 2E yet. Like, there's antagonize on the swashbuckler, but there isn't a way to like force people to attack you. But I think playing bagpipes indoors is the closest thing you can get. Because, yeah, no, that is like wrong. Yeah, like a chefromancer. That'd be fun. I think someone said in one of my comments that Nonat made a homebrew of it, but now that I'm actually like talking it out, because you know how you never actually think things through until you, you know, talk to people about them. As they are now, I don't think that there are enough or the right types of alchemical foods for... Actually, no, there are... Never mind, there are the lozenges. The lozenges would actually work pretty well. Like, basically, what made me think this is whenever I was reading through the alchemical foods and I saw the bubblegum that, like, can make a sonic explosion whenever you pop the bubble. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, wait, it has a static DC. And I don't think it's like an elixir or a mutagen or a bomb or anything, so you can't use your class DC for it as any alchemist. At least I don't think so. I'm not that familiar with the alchemist. But I saw that, I was like, oh, that's really cool, and that would be really stupid for a character that is based around killing people with bubblegum. But it'd be really funny. Maybe for a future book. Oh, yeah, no. Basically, no, like, TTRPG actually has forced aggro. There are ways of kind of forcing aggro, which is basically, if someone has a stick, getting in the doorway between them and the rest of your party is basically forced aggro. But, and of course, what I would like to stress as a joke that I've said a couple of times of that there is aggro in 2E. It's just that you have to aggro your GM into targeting your character, which is only kind of a joke, as in if you stop the spellcaster from casting their spell by grappling them, they're probably going to be more likely to hit you. But don't actually make them up angry because they're your friend. Yeah, metal... Yeah. That is very much a first world problem, but I get it. As someone who really likes playing Dex characters, thinking, oh, but why would I actually use, like, heavier armor? It looks cool, but, like, why? I absolutely get that. And a great null fighter with crunch, meteor hammer who likes to trip and grapple. That sounds incredibly effective. Like ridiculously effective. Trip is very good on fighters because of attacks of opportunity. And meteor hammers are really good with the reach, and yeah, that sounds highly effective. Go for it, George. I am not all that familiar with a lot of null feats to actually say, like, to judge the null side of things, but any fighter who's focusing on tripping with a reach weapon is going to be good. Like, any fighter. Yeah, I like to... Probably the better way, rather than saying aggro your GM, is mosquito aggroing. So you're not actually... You're just being a little frustrating, but they focus on you anyway because you're frustrating. It's like, God damn it, I just wanted to focus on doing my thing, and now there's a mosquito buzzing around my head. I mean, if you have high armor, like if you're using heavy armor, you don't need dex. Like, straight up, you just don't. Because high armor, like heavy armor has bulwark, which boosts your reflex save, and if you're not going to be using a lot of dex skills, you just don't need it. Oh, okay, that's what crunch does. Got it. Then the one thing that I would say is that you'll have to be getting like a magical meteor hammer and hand wraps. To get the most out of the grapple trait, you want to have a bonus on your attack rolls with your bite. So just keep that in mind. It's still going to be very good, because you can always attempt like an acrobatics check whenever an athletics check when someone's next to you anyway to grapple them. But still very good. And regarding the compelled duel, there is actually a Pathfinder spell for it. It will hardly ever see the light of day, because Fated Duel is the Pathfinder 2e equivalent of that, where you pick an ally and an enemy, and then they're in a duel that cannot be interrupted by anything. Like, you are incapable of casting spells on your ally or your enemy. Nothing can hurt your ally except for the enemy. The problem is that it's 10th level, so you aren't going to see it until level 19, and most people don't play around that level. So it's a really cool spell, very situational for when you would actually want to be doing that to your ally. Because if they're above your level, they're fucked. But it exists. Also, I think it's willing only enemies. So you can't, like, lock them in with your, like, your cleric or your thaumaturge or something who has legendary will saves and just, oh, well, their saving throws are very good, you can't hurt them, if they're a spellcaster. But it's a really fun spell. It came out in Secrets of Magic. Let's see. Yeah, so regarding the, like, ability score boost, you don't have to put them into Dex if you're using heavy armor. Of course, if you are, like, the person in your party who's using thievery and stealth and acrobatics, then, like, yeah, you have other very good reasons to put ability score boosts into Dex. But, like, if it's just armor, you get the same amount. Or sorry, you'll have the same armor either way, or AC either way. There is a Magus in one group that I'm playing in. We're only level 1, but as in we've had like 2 sessions. It's a very new group, and they are going to be taking the Sentinel archetype at level 2, and I actually don't think that they are going to be putting a single boost into charisma, or not charisma, into dexterity, and just, yeah, armor will cover for their reflex saves. Admittedly, they are also not going to be the person in the party that's doing thievery checks or anything like that. So you do give up things, but you can get a lot out of heavy armor. Also, even if you do have dex boosts, heavy armor does just give objectively a 1 higher AC than light and medium. So if you have the strength to wear it and the proficiency, you might as well, because you still get the AC boost. You will have a movement speed penalty, but you can take fleet to offset that. I feel like I've gotten a stupid amount of items for this being stage 2. Fated duel on yourself and an enemy? I believe so. Admittedly, if you use it on like a boss, you're gonna die, because if they're like 2 levels above you, they're gonna just be able to outdamage you and have better defenses. So keep that in mind. But it's fantastic for like a story rival that is on your level but not dramatically stronger than you. Basically, you might be signing your death warrant, but goddamn will you look cool doing it. Of course, depending on the scenario. And you can always just have like your friendly neighborhood wizard come around and cast Fated Duel on people for like Oh, you guys want to have a magical duel? Oh, sure. Well, I've been waiting for the chance to cast this spell for 20 years. um, oh, I mean, like, absolutely. Enemies can cast... All that matters is that you're casting it on two people who are enemies of each other. That's what matters. Oh, sweet squid polyp. Best item in the game. Let's fucking go. It's not, by the way. It is absolutely not. Oh, okay. Immediate void seed. At least there's a lot of loot here to get with all the money I'm about to have. I'm fighting all of these. Okay, so oh, yep, get the little one, because the little one will run away and then cause more problems. You could probably say that actually about a lot of toddlers now that I think about it. Don't let the toddler get away, they'll cause problems. But I don't know why my brain went there, but maybe I'm just tired. But let's see, what are we getting? Let's see. Let's grab this while we heal up a little bit. Okay. Now what? Can you try trip the odds by buffing one side? I think you can buff beforehand, but even then, like, buffing up someone... really, more of the situation is that, oh no, I wasn't talking about killing toddlers, I was just talking about, like, have you ever put down a toddler or a small child, or been the toddler or small child, when put down on the ground, immediately sprints off somewhere? Because it's like, I'm free, I must now go off and cause chaos? Because that's more what I was thinking. I was not thinking of attacking toddlers. Children are good, even if they can be very, very annoying at times. And I'm not necessarily the best with them. But toddlers are, or can at the very least, be agents of chaos. Oh yeah, no, out of context. Fucking terrible. But you definitely can tip the odds. At least I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I've completely read the text of the spell. But I think you can tip the odds, but high level creatures get fucking crazy. So like, you can do it, I still don't know if it would be a good idea. And also, the enemy might also have to be willing. I am forgetting, it's been a while. Let's see. I know that the Rage of the Elements is gonna be a lot of rules and new stuff, but at the same time I'm like, oh yes, but lore on the wood and metal elemental planes, give it to me. Also, I'd really love for this to be a sign that Paizo's gonna be making a elemental plane AP. Because I haven't done one of those since, like, what would that be? Oh, what is that? It's the Catapesh. Oh. It's the Genie AP from 1E. I think it was the first actual Pathfinder 1E adventure path. or it was the last 3.5 adventure path. But that one. No, Grandparent is an actual name of a enemy in this game. And parents are also an enemy in this game. Toddler, that was just me saying literally the first thing that came to my brain without thinking. Oh, I just realized that I haven't talked at all this stream about the announcement from, I think it was Friday, maybe it was Sunday, maybe it was Saturday, I don't know. Time is an illusion. Oh, okay, we've won. Best use item in the game. Just makes everything cheaper and gives you more items. We've not actually, like, won, but things will be dramatically easier. Oh, I could have gotten it legendary. Unfortunately, I have a horrible reaction speed. Like, actually, my reaction time is garbage. But, yeah, there's going to be a total of 4 T&Jaw books, including 4 adventures, as in a 4-book AP. And I am so unreasonably excited for that, because T&Jaw is not very fleshed out, and it's gonna be so cool. So long as it's up to, like, the standards, I hope it's up to the standards of the Mwangi Expanse Lost Omens book, because that was fantastic. And obviously it can't go into the same amount of detail as the Mwangi Expanse book, because in case you weren't aware, T&Jaw is insultingly large. I'd say insultingly as in it's an insult to, like, anyone with a map. Because, for the record, T&Jaw is about as wide as Africa is tall. It's about 4,000 by 8,000 miles. It is a actually, like, unrealistically large continent. There's no way that they're, in, like, a couple of books, they're going to be able to go into the same amount of detail as the Mwangi Expanse book, into, like, individual cultures. Simply because, like, 1 or 2 provinces of T&Jaw is the size of the Mwangi Expanse. But I'm really looking forward to it. The thing is, we've heard only a little bit about the wood and metal elemental planes, but the little that we've heard is that they sound completely alien, and in a way where it's like the wood plane is absolutely wood. It is not like nature. It is wood and plants, and that's it. Like, that's more the concept rather than nature, which I think is going to lead for interesting things. I think that they're end of this year, the new T&Jaw books. How do I keep the my figure? That is a confidential secret. I am legally not allowed to tell people how I maintain my shape. Yeah, just actually, now that I think about it, one of the big things that I'm looking forward to for the T&Jaw books, specifically, I'm expecting it to be in the character guide. In the character guide, it's more likely to be in the character guide when compared to the, like, setting guide. That I'm looking forward to seeing new class feats for existing classes, because I think I might have mentioned this in a video at some point, but I repeat myself anyway, is that I love getting new classes for 2e, but I do legitimately think that a book that just contains feats for existing classes would probably be better for 2e overall as a system than like getting a couple new classes, because we already have a lot of classes that cover a shit ton of like thematic and mechanical ground, and giving those access to more feats allows for just a lot of cool stuff. And it's the other kind of problem, and this is something that was absolutely true in Pathfinder 1e, is that over the course of the development of the system, the older stuff gets more content, like how there were a ton of items for like specifically fighters in Pathfinder 1e, or like specifically bards, but there aren't those for like, I don't know, the Shifter, the last class to come out, because they just didn't have time to publish that. So that kind of leads to occasionally classes that are released later feeling a bit anemic when compared to ones that are later releases. So I'd just love to get an entire book of class feats. That's not happening. Because... Oh, no, in regards to the whole, I'm legally not obligated, that's also a joke. Just, unfortunately, whenever I try and be sarcastic, it literally sounds exactly the same as when I normally talk. In case that was what you were talking about, crashing and burning. It is sadly unfortunate that I sound exactly the same, because I like making jokes and then people don't think that they're jokes, and it's like, oh no, please don't take me seriously. I'm not a serious person. Oh, I literally just started blinking into my webcam, and then I remembered that I'm not actually using the webcam. That is a different thing that I can do that causes my computer to want to light itself on fire even more than it already is. So I can't really do it while streaming. Yeah, give me the Wungus. Give me that consistent healing. Even if I don't actually have enough stacks yet, but... Oh, like, it's kind of... Yeah, it is kind of opposite power creep, but it's... I don't expect for power creep to end up being, like, a huge problem with the way that 2e is designed. Like, they're very obviously... They're keeping power creep in mind whenever they're designing things. But whenever they're designing new classes, they're keeping it in check, which is good. But... this is kind of something that I mentioned in my last video on the treasure vault, of just, even if you are generally doing a good job of avoiding power creep, okay, now we've actually kind of won with the combination of the card and this. That's 2 free items every stage instead of 1. But even if you're doing a good job avoiding power creep, which 2e is doing very well, the more options that you implement and add, the more they're just gonna be some options that are better than others. So, like, assuming the same, like, somehow objectively quantified level of optimization in feats added to new classes, the more feats that get added, eventually there's gonna be more good options for a class. But from what it sounds like, at least, I hope this isn't just me wishfully thinking, is that it sounds like there are going to be new class options for, or a fair amount of new class options in the TN job books, which is gonna be cool. I am, in particular, exceptionally excited for the new Magus hybrid study, because I've only played 2 Maguses so far, and I am more than happy to make that a 3. But oh yeah, no, like absolutely, power creep is not a good thing. Or sorry, power creep may be a good thing for sales, depending on what it is that you're doing, or depending on your player base and yada yada yada, lots of stuff like that, lots of semantics. Game design is complicated, but in terms of like for the health of the game, yeah, it isn't, because you're gonna end up with how many hexblades, hexblade paladins, in 5e, just because, oh yeah, who knew that getting charisma to a lot of stuff is incredibly good. And 2e has been doing a good job of avoiding that. I don't think that there's any option that's like clearly better than everything else, which is good, because that's when you start getting problems. Oh. Is that an invisible one? No, just a drone that is also pretty much invisible on this terrain. Oh no. I was worried that I was going to be stuck on that mushroom spore patch for longer than I should have been because of lag, but thankfully I did not die for something like that. But now we can go and get the legendary, and then probably on the way back down get that shrine. Seems reasonable. And okay, we have 2 lives if we die. Okay. I'm going to commit to this now, because otherwise, I know me, I'm going to continue putting off committing to something, and then I'll just never make a firm decision. This is probably going to be the last run for this stream, because my voice is getting a bit sore, and I want to hopefully have a clean and nice conclusion to the stream, as in a successful run and not me dying, or having to stop because my it hurts to talk. So PC creations are technically oh yeah, no, like, well, okay, the whole PC creation options and like all the rules being online for free, that probably does impact power creep a bit. There was still power creep in in Pathfinder 1e, which still had all the rules online for free. So, although I guess there, everything will be online for free for Pathfinder, but if you want to use it in Pathfinder Society, you do have to buy the book that it came out in. But like in Pathfinder 1e, the Slayer is basically just a better version of the Ranger, unless you're fighting one specific type of creature all of the time. Because if you're not fighting one of your favorite enemies and it isn't like your preferred favorite enemy, then you're just a sad fighter. As someone who likes playing Rangers in 1e, that's just true, because Slayers are just 2e Rangers. They get to pick an enemy that they can see and then get bonuses against them, rather than having to pick a creature type. So some campaigns, Rangers are stupidly good, and others, they are just kind of sad. I could use another ukulele. And some more ATGs. Are there any here? No. Damn. Oh no. I did not mean to back myself into a wall there. Let's see. Will this help? No. Gore's Tome just gives me more money. Yeah, no, these are the parents. Or that's a blazing parent because they're an elite, but they are parents. And the bigger ones are grandparents. In Risk of Rain 1, there were children. Coincidentally, according to the lore, the children are the youngest. Or, sorry, the children are the oldest version of, like, the ecosystem, or, like, they're almost kind of like ants. The lore for this game is weird. Like, absolutely wild. But yeah, let's obliterate this run. Lots of, like, fairly eldritch stuff going on in Risk of Rain. Oh, that's pretty good. It's not like a utterly game-changing legendary, but it's still pretty good. Hi, nice to have you here. And, yeah, no, Chewy Rangers are bullies. Although, if you really want to be a bully, a ranger specializing in combat maneuvers. That's the true bully lifestyle. So you pick one person and then you don't let them play the game. Although really, that's just the way to be a bully in 2E, is just athletics. Shove people into lockers full time. As in the barbarian feat that gives you a +2 bonus on athletics checks to, like, grapple and shove is literally called Furious Bully. Which okay, this is a character that I don't necessarily think that I would want to, like, play, but I do think would be really fun to, like, they'd be a really fun character for combat, but I don't necessarily think that I would enjoy them roleplay wise. So I'm not actually that likely to play them. Because I want a character that I can enjoy both aspects of the game equally. But I really want to play probably a barbarian that goes into monk and then probably wrestler. With Furious Bully, whose eventual aim is to get Flurry of Blows and Flurry of Maneuvers and Mixed Maneuvers, so they can make 4 total checks against someone, or sorry, anyone adjacent to them, with, like, and then probably use Assurance for some of the last ones, but it'd be really funny. Also, fantastic song. Really, just the soundtrack overall for Risk of Rain is absurd. Like, easily one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. Probably one of my favorite, like, silly builds. Or not silly builds. It's not silly. It's not, like, bad. It is a Fran-approved stream for being a bully. But one of my, like, kind of favorite silly concept builds that I've seen someone throw out is actually, might be a character that someone in one of my groups plays in our next campaign once we're done with Outlaws of Alkenstar. But a Laughing Shadow Magus that actually punches things, which might be familiar to someone in the chat currently. But unlike the Punch Magus that I'm playing, goes into, let's see, it was Rogue and Monk. So the idea for the character is that they never spell strike, and they just get Sneak Attack and Flurry of Blows and Arcane Cascade and a high strength modifier, and they get into a flank and just hit you for really high damage, like flat damage modifiers. Which is interesting. But I think it would definitely make for an interesting character. I mean, I have actually basically been told out of character, let the boss cast their spells. Yeah, no, I could definitely see new general feats. Someone from Paizo, I'm forgetting who, did actually talk about that. I should really go up and take care of this construct. But they did talk about it and basically said it's not likely to happen because they want general feats to be general, like very general. Sort of just things that, oh yeah, like really anyone could realistically want this. That's kind of what they're looking for general feats to be more like. And there aren't a whole lot of things that can fit into that specific category. Which I agree with. But I do think that is room for more. Especially, one second, I have to pause. My nose is, like, painfully itchy. Is, like... like super general feats, yeah, that we've already got a good selection of, like, oh yeah, you're an adventurer, you can take a hit better, you can run faster. Those work. They're fine, but I would like to see specifically, I've like ideas for two like general types of general feats. One being a general feats that use saving throw proficiency as their prerequisite. So just ways of customizing your personal way of rolling saves a bit more. Like, I don't know, a general feat that lets you move 5 feet on a success on a reflex save and 10 feet on a critical success. Not crazy, but it makes rolling a reflex save more interesting, and I think that's cool. There are already class feats for it, and I don't think that these feats should be stronger than the representative class feats, because, like, yeah, a swashbuckler or a rogue with tumble away should be better at moving because they did well on a reflex save. I'm forgetting what the actual feat is, but there's one for those two classes that allows them to move whenever they do well on a reflex save. But it'd be cool if that was still an option for everyone. Or for characters who just want to do really, really well with specific saves. The other type of general feat that I think would be interesting is, they wouldn't really be general feats, but I think that feats or rather feat categories like Aftermath and Deviant feats are very cool. Like Deviant abilities are absolutely badass. As a concept, they're just very cool. I like them a lot. I don't know if I should have grabbed the shrimp, but I did, so I'll have to sleep with that. So I think that adding like more minor categories, basically they implemented Deviant and Aftermath feats in the Dark Archive, and they both use up class feats, but I just like to see some that use general feats instead. Like, you can absolutely give weird general feats, just make them uncommon. And those are basically my two general ideas. I have no idea what those would be. Like, what on earth that category would be. Oh yeah, no, you definitely do need to make Fran much more of a bully. Then, let's see. Caster who thinks they're a different type. Oh, like, yeah, no, it's the idea of someone who casts spells in a way that they are absolutely unaware of is wonderful. Then, oh, witches 100% need more feats. I would actually argue, if anything, that witches could use an unchained version. As in, just Paizo admitting, yeah, we didn't do a fantastic job differentiating witches from wizards or other spellcasters, and just given some more stuff. Ideally, I just like to see the class fleshed out more. That could be new lessons, new feats. Ideally, and I think this would just be silly that it doesn't already exist, I think that there should be patron and lesson exclusive familiar abilities. So your familiars can actually do things that other people's familiars can't. So your familiars stand out more, and these would be absolutely much stronger. The other idea that I like, just familiar abilities. Familiar abilities are cool, but I want witches to have dramatically more powerful familiar abilities because they're the familiar class. They should have those. Yeah, something like the technical repositioning would be cool. Just because that makes, like, currently there are very, very limited abilities to change how your saving throws, like, work. Which is very different when you compare that to, like, strikes. There are so many different ways to customize how you strike, but there's hardly any ways to change how you, like, or rather, they are very limited to select types of characters, and I'd like to see weaker ones, admittedly weaker ones, but are just available to anyone. We're assuming that you actually are a good enough dodger, or you have a high enough proficiency. I just think it'd be cool. Oh, I think, like, maybe lessons for free, or it'd probably be like lessons for free, and more powerful familiar abilities would probably be enough to make them stand out a bit more as a class. Oh, there's a homunculus. I'm pretty sure that a homunculus, regarding, like, a familiar, I'm pretty sure that that is a construct familiar, because a homunculus is the homunculus is, God, computer struggling badly. There's like a level 1 or level -1 homunculus creature, which is a construct. So I'm assuming that if you wanted to make like a homunculus right now, it would just be a construct familiar that you give a lot of human, like, or a lot of abilities to replicate human abilities. So like manual dexterity, speech, that sort of stuff. So you could do it, but I would like to see some more, like, legitimate, like, that is a small person, why are they in your pocket sort of abilities. Because those are fun. I have heard I'm aware that Hytale exists. I'm aware that it has existed for, at least in some way, for a long time now. I know absolutely nothing about it. And I doubt that I would play it even if it does come out. It is good. I would be a little bit surprised if it ends up being, like, my kind of game. And I have not watched Owl House. One thing that I actually think would be interesting, because it's not this is something that hasn't been brought over from 1E into 2E yet, and it's horrifying, is almost a staple of alchemists, or it was just an ability that a lot of alchemists ended up getting, was tumor familiars, meaning you just made a bit of you added, like, I don't know, you made your appendix your familiar in 1E, and it could crawl out of you. Which is absolutely horrific. And also an incredibly evocative, like, character hook. Like, that is a memorable character ability to have, which is cool. I don't know, I think that would just be a specific familiar that gets a specific, like, ability, but still, holy shit. Interesting. Have you checked if there's an alchemist feat that gives you a familiar? Does that call it a homunculus familiar? I would look it up, but I'm a bit preoccupied with trying to remotely stay alive, which is actually getting to be rather difficult, because this build doesn't have enough AoE. I say build like I had any real choice when it came to deciding what items I have. Because it could be something where, like, your alchemist familiar is a homunculus. There's also the chance that if you're looking at it in Path Builder, that Path Builder renamed the ability that gives you a homunculus familiar. And it does exist, just Path Builder is legally distinct. So they remove a lot of the lore terms, so they might have... Homunculus could have been one of those. I know that there have been situations where I've been confused about that. Yeah, this will help with AoE. I don't have to kill people now for them to explode. Let's see. I could use another ukulele so bad. We're almost at the end of a run, but... let's see. Oh, yeah, no. Familiars are dramatically better. I honestly prefer the familiar system from Pathfinder 1e, but I also dramatically prefer the Pathfinder 2e version of familiars to 5e's familiars, which is just a spell that anyone can get. Familiars feel more like actual important characters and that are important to your character in 2e. Just familiars could do a little bit more. A little bit. It's probably a perspective thing, and probably just that I learned with 1e, so I have like rose-tinted glasses. I would not deny that, as there are some things where I still think that 1e did a little bit better, but overall 2e's a dramatically better system. It's just art in the way it's put together. Admittedly, maybe not everyone cares that much about math, but... Let's see. Intuitive rules. Oh, oh god, I almost just died. I used up a bottle. That is very concerning, because I don't actually know what caused me to take that damage. Or what attack did it. Admittedly, I was reading chat, which is not necessarily a good idea whenever I am on the edge of death, but... anyway... Interesting. So, do they actually have, a specific... I guess I haven't looked at familiars being able to manipulate gear. Huh. That's interesting. I mean, that is absolutely a situation where I would just say, no, you get the bonus to your AC. Like, that's a situation where, rules don't make sense, therefore we make our own. It's literally rule 1. Okay, which... Oh yeah, it would be cool if witch familiars were able to activate consumables. I'm just thinking, like... Wouldn't it be cool if, in addition to getting a hex from your patron, you also got a familiar ability that it could use as like a 1 or 2 action ability? Or, I don't know, like, your familiar can sustain your spells or something. So then you can command your familiar and then sustain 2 different spells. So you can use a hex and sustain that consistently while also, like, I don't know, casting Bless. And it's nice having you here, Austin. I mean, a lot of the time I feel it's just rule of common sense. Like, yes, if they put the shield in front of the face, they're harder to hit. Because, honestly, I feel like a lot of the time, the rules are predominantly there for combat. And to a degree, it's like, yeah, it's useful for, like, limiting maybe some of what you're doing or what you're capable of. Why am I applying so much bleed? I don't know, but it's good. I guess I just have a high attack speed and 2 tri-tips. Huh. That's enough. Yeah, like, I feel like if I were to even, maybe redesign is a strong word, if I were to change or rewrite the witch while not like completely changing it, the 2 things that I would focus on are familiars, or rather, I guess maybe the 2 routes that I would go on would be familiars and or sustaining spells, because already witches are kind of in this, like, that they can sustain spells better than a lot of other classes, because, or not, sorry, they don't sustain spells necessarily better, it's that all of their focus cantrips are sustained, so they are really rewarded for using sustained, because obviously they have a lot of sustained spells. So I think giving them other abilities like that, like maybe if it wasn't a familiar ability, but like just something where every every witch patron gave you a different effect every time that you sustained a spell. So like, okay, I'm going to sustain, and then probably lessons could give you a different one. So basically, instead of getting Flurry of Blows, you would get like, one witch patron has sustain a spell, or has like a special action that they can take called like, I don't know. I was gonna say Intimidating Glare, but that already exists. Like, I don't know, let's just throw something out. Terrifying Gaze. So then, I'm not sure, let's say that that's the Curse patron's unique action. So then as one action, they sustain a spell, and they demoralize someone. Or rather, maybe demoralize, then sustain a spell, so you can actually benefit from the demoralize on the spell that you're sustaining. So then it's like, okay, that adds a real identity to the witch, because all of a sudden they are actively incentivized to cast sustain spells, which are good for everyone, but they're always situationally good, because you never know if you need to like stride twice in a turn and like do something else, or stride and cast a spell to stop someone from dying and then you lose your sustain. But witches would fill that role of, oh, these spells, they're made for the witch. And I should also read chat rather than so I'm aware of what people are saying about what I'm saying, rather than getting caught up in my own words. Okay, every single time that you or Lamb have said that you will get through things, we never have. But I have not heard about Starfinder. Oh, wait, no, wait, I have. It's effectively Starfinder 1.5, right? That's, I think it is, right? like, or actually, is it adjusting core rules, or is it just like taking core maybe classes that didn't exactly stand up to the test of time and then updating those? Like, basically, if you played 1E, is it Unchained, or is it like Starfinder 1.5? Yeah, I am tempted in ways to try and like, can I homebrew a witch that I like more? But at the same time, that's a lot. And I would be the one. I would want to be the one to playtest it, not give it off to someone else, because then if it sucks, I don't want to. I don't want to do that to someone. Oh no. So. Oh, that's right. I have Dios. My hands were off the keyboard. Yeah, I touched a bunch of imp spikes there. The imp overlords throw spikes, and they apply bleed, and each time that you get bleed, its damage goes up and its duration goes up. And I touched like 8. No, it was more than 8. But so I just like instantly died. Oh, I just thought of something. Identify. Yeah, the witch is a little bit too all over the place. So, like, if they just said, okay, you're going to get an automatically scaling familiar, okay, that's it. We're not going to be, like, focusing on improving the power of your familiar more than, like, a familiar, wizard that I'm forgetting the name of their arcane thesis. Familiar arcane thesis wizard. You're just gonna have a familiar that's as good as that. But then everything else about the class is we really care about sustaining. So, like, the lessons each give you, and you could still, like, grab the lessons, but you get more from your patrons, so it balances out a little bit more. That might work. But basically, it doesn't have as much of a core identity as other classes, which definitely is a downside. Because other classes' core identity is just so cool that it is a downside whenever it's not as cool. And Starfinder enhanced new ship rules, revised rules for less cumbersome. Okay. So, oh, and now I get the best item in the game. The Shatter Spleen is really good. It lets me do to other people what happened to me earlier with Bleed, making it dramatically easier to apply it, or giving it another way to apply what stacks with other ways. I can ramble about the mechanics of Risk of Rain for a while, but I'm going to hold off on that. But I think regarding Starfinder, whenever I played it, because I did play it for like a year or so, around, not, maybe a year or two after it came out, my biggest problem with Starfinder is the leveled equipment, where it's just like, oh, sweet, I get this gun, and all of, like, I'm gonna need to upgrade this gun, maybe when we level up, maybe, because it'll just fall off really quickly, and that doesn't feel like, I don't know, you're getting all of your power from the equipment rather than you doing a lot of it, which